It is early autumn of the year 1818, and a man disembarks from a ship on the Thames River in London, with his wife and infant son. Upon his return to London, Gregor Macgregor, Scottish explorer and hero of the Venezuelan Republic, began looking for a new adventure. The envoy for the Third Venezuelan Republic happened upon Macgregor and offered him £1,000 to bring British soldiers to Venezuela, but Macgregor spent the money within weeks, turning to a London financier named Thomas Newt, who insisted that Macgregor instead go to Colombia. Macgregor departed for South America yet again in November of 1818. His men nearly mutinied near Haiti in February of 1819 when he failed to pay them, but Macgregor was able to persuade some merchants in Haiti to finance his expedition. In March, Gregor stopped in Jamaica to arrange a place for Josefa and Gregorio, his wife and son, to stay. On April 9th, he joined his men on the island of San Andres off the coast of Panama. Macgregor announced the men would attack the famous Spanish city of Portobello the next day. The next day, British Colonel William Rafter landed with a force of 200 men near Portobello and took the city without a fight. Macgregor came ashore, but ignored Rafter's requests to march on Panama City. Macgregor's men became mutinous again, after he failed to pay them. Again, I'm starting to sense a pattern here. The lack of patrols by Macgregor's men allowed the Spanish army to march right in, surprise attacking his soldiers while they were running their morning drills. Gregor awoke to sounds of fighting. He threw his mattress out of a window and jumped after it, using a log to paddle out to his ships, but passed out and would have drowned had he not been found and brought aboard the HMS Hero. Rafter kept on fighting the Spanish, but surrendered when he saw Macgregor and the ship sailing away. He was executed while in Spanish captivity for attempting to escape. After his escape, Macgregor went to Haiti, where he planned an expedition to Rio de la Hacha in northern Colombia. In Haiti, Macgregor led a mutiny against the captain of the Hero, selling the ship in Les Cayes. In Les Cayes, 500 men were waiting for him, with another 400 arriving with Irish recruiter Colonel Thomas Erie with a schooner named the Amelia. By the time the Amelia set sail, Macgregor's force only numbered 250, however, due to desertion. The ship arrived in the town of Rio de la Hacha on October 4th of 1819, but were driven away by cannon fire. Macgregor ordered a night landing west of the town. When Lieutenant Colonel William Norcott led his men on the beach, Macgregor refused to come ashore. The Spanish surprise attacked Norcott, but he retaliated and took the town. However, Macgregor still didn't come ashore, believing it to be a ruse by the Spanish. Norcott eventually convinced Macgregor to come ashore, and his men cursed at him when he landed. Events transpired much the same as in Portobello, and when the town was surrounded, and Macgregor not leading his men at all, Norcott decided the situation was hopeless, and left on a captured Spanish schooner with 32 men. After this, Macgregor convened with Erie and his remaining men, then escaped on the Amelia while the Spanish attacked, killing Erie. Macgregor returned to Les Cayes, where he learned that he was wanted for piracy in Jamaica, and his family was living with a friend of his named Thomas Higson. He also learned that Simon Bolivar was outraged by Macgregor's recent actions in South America and ordered his hanging should he ever return. Meanwhile, in 1820, Michael Rafter, brother of William Rafter, who Macgregor abandoned in Portobello, published an account of Macgregor's adventures called Memoirs of Gregor Macgregor, which condemned him. Macgregor went to the Mosquito Coast of Honduras in April of 1820, where he gained access to the court of the King George Frederick Augustus of the Mosquito people, descendants of shipwrecked African slaves and the natives of the region, and will be the topic of their own video. The British had crowned the most powerful Mosquito leaders kings since the 1600s and continued to do so to obstruct Spanish claims. On April 29th of 1820, King Augustus granted Macgregor 8 million acres of territory along the Mosquito Coast in exchange for rum and jewelry. Macgregor dubbed his newly acquired territory Poye, and it stretched from Cape Cameron in the north to Cape Gracias a Dios in the south. Despite Rafter's book, many in London were unaware of Macgregor's failures, but remembered his achievements, such as the March to Barcelona. Macgregor returned to London in early 1821, and his wife gave birth to a daughter, also named Josepha. Macgregor began touring the UK and Europe in search of investors for his fake colony, making up a government style, an army, and using the same Green Cross flag as his attempted country in Florida. Macgregor began an advertising campaign, giving interviews in the news and producing leaflets and guidebooks. He made up a capital called St. Joseph with a fictional population of 20,000. He sold Poyasian land certificates at 2 shillings and 3 for an acre of land. By 1823, at least 500 had bought in on his con. Macgregor also attempted to get a £200,000 loan from a London bank. On September 10th of 1822, Macgregor saw the ship Honduras Packet leave London with 70 emigrants led by ex-British Army officer Hector Hall. A second ship, the Kinnersley Castle, left from Leith near Edinburgh with 200 settlers on January 22nd of 1823, with Macgregor seeing them off too. However, by that time, Poyasian bonds had collapsed with the price of the British economy. The Honduras Packet arrived in the Mosquito Coast in November of 1822 to find a much different countryside than that in the advertisements. When Poyasian authorities never arrived, Hall decided Macgregor had scammed them, and the Honduras Packet had abandoned them during a storm. Hall left to attempt to find the Mosquito King or another ship. The Kinnersley Castle arrived in March to this situation, but the ship left them too. Hall returned in April with bad news. The Mosquito King, George Frederick Augustus, had not been aware of the colonists coming and did not consider them his responsibility. The colonists were hopeless. With the rainy season came mosquito infestations, and malaria and yellow fever became rife in the camp. The sooner Mexican Eagle, carrying Chief Magistrate of Belize, Marshal Bennett, to the Mosquito King, happened upon the settlers in May of 1823. Bennett informed them that Poye did not exist. Bennett advised them to return with him to Belize. And when Hall returned with the Mosquito King, King Augustus announced that Macgregor's land was revoked. He stated he never gave Macgregor any title or gave him permission to sell land, telling the colonists they were in his land illegally and had to either leave or pledge allegiance to him. All but 40, who were too weak to make the trip to Belize, left on the Mexican Eagle. Upon reaching Belize, many died as they were already too weak. Of the over 250 who left for Poye, at least 180 died. Less than 50 ever returned to Britain. Macgregor left London on October 12th of 1823, shortly after the survivors of Poye arrived to bring the matter to British law. In Paris, Macgregor continued his hubris, trying to find French investors for Poye, and even attempting to persuade the Spanish king to join him, but Macgregor went unregarded. In 1824, Macgregor's third and final child, Constantino, was born. Macgregor eventually found new investors. Another ship was made ready at Le Havre, but the French government became suspicious when several people requested passports for a country that did not exist. On September 4th, 1825, Macgregor's secretary, Thomas Irving, was arrested in Paris. The ship at Le Havre never left port, and Macgregor went into hiding, but was arrested in December of 1825. Macgregor was found not guilty, however, in court in mid-1826. Macgregor attempted several other schemes with Poyet, but none were as successful as the first. His wife, Josepha, died near Edinburgh on May 4th of 1838. Macgregor returned to Venezuela applying for citizenship and being approved in March of 1839. Gregor Macgregor died in his home in Caracas on December 4th of 1845. He was buried with full military honors, with Venezuelan President Carlos Sublé alongside the cabinet ministers and military leaders of Venezuela marching behind him. His obituary remarked on his valiant march to Barcelona in 1816 and called him a valiant champion of independence, not mentioning Amelia Island, Portobello, Rio de la Hacha, or Poyet. The part of Honduras known once as Poyet is still largely undeveloped, even in the present day. Thanks for watching.